I will start this presentation by introducing myself and then going to the agenda of what this presentation will be about, and then we go from there. So I'm Tiago Dias. I'm currently working at Euronext Technologies Porto as head of the assessment and exploitation team. It is we call it the red team within our cybersecurity area. And I'm also known as TD00K in the community, so probably you will find me in some forums or blogs, some of my work. So you have my contacts, and also you can reach out to me at the end of this presentation if you have any question or doubt. So first, I would like to present what this presentation is not about. So if you are here to understand how to become a red team operator or how to have the technical perspective on how the red teaming exercises are technically performed. That's not the goal. Okay, this is not something that can be um, done in one presentation or by one certification. So it's more than that. So this presentation, in fact, is about what red teaming is and what is its relevance for our company, Euronext. And I hope that the examples that I'm going to give you here, you can introduce on your professional activities and on the company that you are working on the role that you are working currently. But first, before going to these different exercises and explain to you different approaches, I would like to give a brief context of what is this concept of red teaming and what is the scope that we have at Euronext. So the concept of red teaming, it's not in security. So it started actually in the post-war days in the 60s. And this terminology was started to be using in the army. So um, if we go back in history, it was started by the blue teams and red teams. So the blue teams were probably the United States, the ones that are defending, and the red team, the ones that are attacking the Soviet Union. So it's not that different from we are facing now, but this terminology is got transversal in different areas, and we bring them to security. So in the security, in the cybersecurity world, red teaming is the team that attacks. Blue team is the one that defend, and we are talking about organizations, institutions, systems, whatever is the scope. And talking about the scope, so Euronext is our scope within our internal team, and if you Google it, you will see that we are the stock exchange and market infrastructure. So we are the I would say the biggest European stock exchange. So what does that mean? We have the market infrastructure that will allow the institutions, the financial institutions, and the investors to interact with the market, meaning that they will put orders on the market, and that orders can be intentions of selling, intentions of buying, some other orders. So we call it securities. Securities are any financial instrument that can be exchanged within the stock market. So this is what Euronext as growth in the last years. So we started as a merge of some local markets, but then we started to acquire some companies and also other stock exchanges. So now we operate across the Europe. We are on a lot of different countries, and we are not only one stock exchange, but a group of stock exchange and a group of companies. So there is a lot of technology, a lot of scope that we need to be aware of as working on the cybersecurity teams, because this is what we need to protect in the end. So going briefly into the numbers, we are we have a lot of scope. We are in 17 countries. As I said, we are more than 2,000 employees, and each employee is a human firewall, as you know. And we have also our billions. We have billions of messages being exchanged every day in our trading platform, which is called the Optic. So it's our proprietary trading platform that receives every single day a huge amount of messages that will be the orders that go into the market. Also, we are highly regulated because we are a financial institution. So the standards for us needs to be the hub. So higher standards we need to comply with very highly regulatory demands, and these in the cybersecurity world will be being compliant with some regulatory demands in terms of cybersecurity. So we are extremely audited in our processes, in our internal process within the team. So briefly, and to finalize, we are the financial backbone of raising capital by trading companies' equities. I really like this sentence. And we are in the spotlight. So if we got a cyber attack, or if there is a data leakage, or if for some reason our market doesn't start at the right time each day, we will be on the news. So we have a lot of attention from other investors and also in the European uh, capital markets world. So Euronext has a huge name, and we need to question ourselves. So how can we protect the stock market, which is our role? Um, we need to understand the footprint, and this is a very macro level diagram of the footprint that we have. So we have business applications and we have our trading platform. These applications and the trading platform will be accessed by our customers and trading members. So they will interact with these applications. The data that goes to these applications and trading platform goes to our internal interfaces, which in the end will be systems and services and applications that we have internally. Also, this data is to be stored somehow on our premises or even on cloud-based. So we need to make sure that the data is securely stored in our systems. And also we have internal admins because we have teams that operate the systems where these applications are relying to. So they run into systems, and those systems need to be maintained, configured by our admin. So this is a very macro level of the footprint that we have. So this leads to the hows and the what. So what are we going to protect and how we are going to do it? So the what is what we want to protect from. So the possible impacts will be the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability of our systems. Um, I don't. So that each one of them, as you know, has some possible impact. So in terms of availability, we need to guarantee that the market is operating every single day, and we don't want that the data that our investors and financial institutions are seeing, where the data was tampered. So we need to make sure that we don't have these impacts. In terms of availability, as I said, we have to make sure that the business applications and the trading platform are up and running. In terms of confidentiality and integrity, the possible threat actors that we can have that will target our exposition, so our applications and our trading platform, they can at some point compromise those systems, and we need to make sure that we that's a situation that we do not face. So our attack surface is everything. We need to make sure that everything is well assessed by our team, and uh, we have also the right security monitoring so that the blue team has the possibility to defend. So that leads to the house, how we do it. So we have an internal information security team, which has a lot of different areas. I want to go into detail in the red team area because these guys that work on the field are not the ones that have a lot of the certifications of security, but the ones that have the proper mindset, because it is in the end what is relevant is a proper mindset and a good uh, technical skills. So they need to have understand a full stack technology, understand them, and they need to understand the full stack of technology that we have, and then try to identify the security weaknesses by some processes. And also, of course, that we have the blue team that will defend, but we are responsible to go ahead and question what it is in place and try to find some weaknesses. So the perception and the reality is, although we are a highly um, regulated company and we have a lot of compliance enforcement, a lot of security controls and technology tools that we put in place to create additional layers of security. There is no system that is 100% secure. So our team is responsible to show that there are weaknesses that can be exploited by external threat actors. So how we do it, in fact, we have offensive activities that we perform. We before going to the red teaming, because red teaming is the most complete one, is when we tackle people, processes, and technology. But before that, we have the streams of work about that we have the security assessments that will target our technology stack and also the vulnerability scanning. And we can do it in different approach. So we can do it black box or white box, meaning that we can perform these knowing something about the target or without knowing nothing about the target. And um, we, although we have these activities and we do it in the different areas, these activities are performed continuously, but in the end, we are going to find vulnerabilities. And these vulnerabilities will be shared with the operational teams that will, of course, try to fix them. And we are here to support the mitigation action. So if we find the vulnerability on the code of a certain application, we'll, of course, share it with the development team, with the devs that are the developers that build the application and try to help them to fix the issue. Also with the network part. But we have other activities going on, such as OSINT, where we search for Euronext or what can harm Euronext in the open source intelligence feeds. And we have a set of different assessments that will target different stacks within the technology stack that we have. So from physical to application level, if we think about the OSI model. So the red teaming enters to be something ahead of it. So it's something that we do to go beyond this. And red teaming is not the end for vulnerabilities, for weaknesses or something, is to understand the security operations as a whole. So we target people, we target applications, but also technology. So the red teaming exercises are good for that. So it will, in the end, we will understand the security operations capabilities. All of the areas that I showed earlier will be involved at some stage, because it's not only about the part of the guys that break into the stuff, but understand the capabilities of defense after we attack. So these are the benefits. We have a lot of techniques and tactics and procedures that we can perform, and we perform it thinking as a threat actor, thinking as someone who wants really to target Euronext, and then we try to apply that mindset in some really technical performed exercises. So the red teaming, the reasons that we have, the first one, and I think the most important one, is we have the ability to test the organization from a real life attack with potential deep business damage. So our role is to think about different scenarios that could really impact the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability, but also we will try to explore the people, the weaknesses, the people, the processes and technology to find weakness on those three elements. But also we have a regulatory demand to do it, and we want to have relevant outcomes. We want to go behind finding just a vulnerability and that's it. So we want to have a complete understanding about our security teams. I want just to flag that red teaming, when we acquire some service to perform red teaming, sometimes is extremely costly, but not only costly about money, but also the teams internally need to have time and we need to allocate the right resources to be engaged on these red teaming exercises. It's very important that we are focused on what we want to accomplish. And the different frameworks or different exercises that we can perform goes from phishing campaigns to having in place the TIBER, which is a threat intelligence-based ethical red teaming framework for financial institutions within the Europe. So I'm going to briefly, with all of them, explain to you more in detail what this does mean. So starting by the phishing exercise. So as you know, phishing is a topic that we as persons that are not are in the cybersecurity world, it's a different perspective, but also everyone receives emails that are phishing. But when it comes to red teaming exercises, we need to define the right approach because we don't want like simple phishing. We want to really have to target critical teams or target key people inside the organization. And for that, we need to understand what is the email technology chain that we have, because uh, the simple phishing probably will not go into the email flow and you will receive it on your email client because there will be some validations along the way. So phishing exercises allow us not only to to understand how the human firewall behaves, so how the people behaves when they receive the email, but also to understand what are the controls that we have in place on our email chain. But in the end, we need to understand that it's important to have an awareness program because you will have for sure some people that will click in some link that it's not legit, but also you need to make sure that every attachment that goes on the email can be well validated before it goes into the mail client of the employees. So that's the goal of the phishing exercises, is to have an idea of the awareness and an idea of the email flow. Also, we have tabletop exercises that will target our process and also our people response when we have an incident. What is actually this tabletop exercise? It's nothing but create a scenario. You can create several scenarios that, I mean, it will be the worst case scenarios, but that in the end happens a lot. We see on the news several companies that have attacks of different kinds, and of course that if they internally think that they will not be attacked, they will be attacked. So the first stage will be, okay, let's think about how we will respond if we have this incident. You can start by thinking about a very simple scenario where you have a ransomware attack and start to see what is your backup recovery process in place. So it's this process well defined. Do I have the right accountables? Do I have the right teams to be engaged on this recovery process? So let's test the process, and if we don't have it, are we going to pay for this ransomware? So what will be the plan B here? So in the end, we are looking to identify the gaps within this process, and this needs to be an engagement of the cybersecurity team to talk to each other in a round table and define the steps to respond to the different scenarios. And I want to um, to give some relevance on the last sentence because practice makes perfection. If we have this type of exercises being done with some frequency and not just one per year, we have the teams engaged and prepared when we have a real case scenario. So that will be level one. Going to, I would say, level two, we have breach and attack simulation. What this means that we can have tools, so we can acquire some tools that will go into the different stages of the cybersecurity kill chain and will test the company or the organization in the different stages. So we can test the recon part. So what is our external exposure? What what the threat actors can see, what they will see if they go into the open source intelligence feeds and search by Euronext. So what are the IPs that we have exposed? What are the applications that we have exposed? And then we can start to fingerprint those applications and start to identify if, for example, we have a WAF in place there, or do I have other controls in place there that could prevent some attack. But also we can have an agent on our infrastructure to go into the next stage. So imagine that we have the payload delivery. So first they will recon our infrastructure. They will search for a service that has some weakness. They will exploit the weakness. They will somehow enter in our organization. So after that, what is our controls at the endpoint level or at the proxy level? Because sometimes these malwares or these Trojans that go into the organizations, they communicate with some um, external endpoints that are seen as non-legit. So we can see if our internal tools and our technology stack identifies that as malicious. So we will test these different stages and, for example, see at endpoint level if someone clicks on the link and downloads a malware, what will be the response at the endpoint level. So do I have an EDR system that will prevent me to prevent the attack? Also, do I have the potential network propagation if this is executed? And also the data exfiltration part. So how easily it is to exfiltrate data from our infrastructure and what techniques can I use? So this can be doing in an automated way or a manual way. So we can have our team go into each phase and start to develop a scenario. So I will scan for external IPs. I will identify a gap, as I said. I will create a malicious payload and try to inject that payload on some delivery in the delivery stage. Can be through email, can be to a web application vulnerability that we can compromise due to that vulnerability. We can compromise or deface the website or whatever the vulnerability that we find. We need to exploit them, and to exploit it, we need to create a weaponization, so a way to create a well-defined payload that will allow us to interact with the system. And after we interact with the system, we need to have a command and control mechanism. So we need to communicate where we inject the payload. So if I send, because I think the most simple example is through email. So if I send malware through email and someone clicks on the attachment and then he executes our payload, we need to have privileges to then go beyond that. So we need to bypass the endpoint security mechanism that the organization has, and then we need to have an external command and control server that will allow us to interact with the victim system per se. And then how are we going to action on the objectives? We need to have to explore different techniques, and there are several that will allow us to exfiltrate the data that we want. So this is the manual part of the cybersecurity kill chain. But apart from this, we also can go into the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is a set of tactics and techniques and procedures that the internal right team can follow, because it will go into the different stages, and the idea would be to test these techniques and see if these techniques can be done without being blocked, so without any type of controls in place that will prevent a threat actor to execute them. Because if you think that if we only think about perimeter, we are wrong, because we need to think about another scenario. Imagine that they are inside, what they can, that what they, we need to understand what they will be able to do. as we need to think as a threat actor. So I got access to the system, and now what? So I need to go and try some techniques and see if they are blocked or not. So going to a different level, we have the threat intelligence-based ethical red teaming. It's a TIRE. This is a framework across Europe that allows the different entities to have a cyber um, resilience. I mean, to have a red team engagement where they are going to enhance their cyber resilience. And the process is normally it's the process that is followed by the financial sector. So we are one at Euronext, we follow this. And this requires a engagement, a pre-engagement phase, then a testing phase, and then a closure phase, where we need to understand the scope, we need to define the rules, we need to have threat intelligence and red teaming services, um, and we need to have a procurement process with them to define the flags, define what is going to be done, and then we have the testing phase where they will apply threat intelligence techniques and red teaming techniques, and they will try to go for the flags that we raise. Um, Also, we have after that we have the closure phase where it's defined the remediation plan, and they share the results with us about what they could or they couldn't do in our systems. So this is a very detailed so the diagrams of detail, this is public information about the Tiberi framework. You can Google it and see a lot of information. But the different phases has a predefined set of activities. This is well organized, and these required actors and roles along the process. So there will be a white team, there will be a red team, and then the blue team will be engaged after for the closure phase. So this framework is something that we follow. It's something that really raises value and puts us on a new level in terms of red teaming engagement. So it's not really closing notes because I have some slides left. But when we are going to have a red teaming engagement, the questions must be asked. So we need to start to identify what could happen to our organization that will really have a reputational damage, that will have revenue-based damage. So what will be those use cases? Also, what is our technology stack? Is there any point of failure? Because actually the organizations rely most of the times in one or two technology stacks. So they have the same providers, they have the same firmwares going on their network devices. They have the same third-party libraries on the application. So if I compromise one, I will compromise all of them. And also, it's to identify what is the critical and valuable assets inside the organization that if we go and compromise those, what will be the outcomes? So I just want to flag here a very good sentence, which is security is a process, not a product. So although you have a lot of products and additional layers of security, such as web application firewalls, network firewalls, EDR systems, network detection and response systems. So you can have a lot of products inside the organization, and in the end, you don't have security because you don't have processes, you don't have the teams engaged, you don't really test your security, so it's a false sense of security. And the most important outcome for me when we are talking about red teaming is the purple teaming, because if there is no red without having the blue. So the teams in the end, they need to act as one. They need to engage on the purple teaming sessions and engagements, where the red team will show what they did, and the red team will identify why those techniques were not seen or were not flagged by the monitor controls that they have. And that is the really value outcome from these red teaming engagements, because if we stop right after we identify the, the different flows and different ways to compromise our systems and to go for the flags that we establish in the pre-engagement sessions. And we, after that, send a report saying, okay, I did this, and then I compromise your system, and boom. That's not the goal, because after that, we need to work on the outcomes. We need to engage together and see the gaps. And because in the next red teaming assessment, it will be for sure harder to go and compromise what the same flags. We need to elevate the, the exercise to a new set of flags. And maybe those flags will not be retrieved by the red team. So as conclusion, I think that we need to first have a test plan. So we need to have our set of activities when it comes to offensive security. So we need to have penetration testing activities. We need to have our application and network security assessments going on. We need to have vulnerability scanning. We need to have compliance, and that needs to be done at the different layers. Also, we can have target vision to the most important, let's say the internal employees that have more permissions, or as they have like um, they are what we called it's not VIP, but they are people that if at some stage those accounts are compromised, they have a lot of permissions. So we need to have more attention to these accounts and to these people, because they, as I said, they are people, they are prone to errors, and if we give them awareness of security, probably the human firewall becomes more robust, and then we can go to the technology stack and see what we have in terms of technology controls. But also we can start doing red teaming exercises as to increase and to put our security robustness in a new level. But don't forget the purple teaming engagement, because it's where the real value is extracted from the teams. So um, I'm not now going to be answer to your questions, and thank you for attending. This is hard because I don't have visual feedback from you, but I hope you learned something today. So I see that I have here one question saying, do you assess and attack loans of the systems or the actual system, thus assuming some risk? Okay, we attack the actual systems, but of course that there are rules on the engagement. So we are not going to run scripts that we don't know, and we are not doing nothing. Because that will impact actually the what we call the production services. Because if we are doing these red team engagements while we are operating the market, we need to have that type of awareness. So we need to set well the rules with the ones that are going to perform the red teaming. I hope I answered to your question.